This week on the Pro Wrestling Podcast, the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, on what led to him jumping ship from AEW over to WWE. Logan Paul weighs in on his WrestleMania experience. Tammy Sitch, better known to all of us as Sunny, involved in a fatal car accident. And Big Time Becky Lynch, on being a heel. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this is the Pro Wrestling Podcast. Welcome into the show. Coming off the heels of a hot WrestleMania weekend, we got all kinds of shit to get into. And of course, arguably nobody had a better WrestleMania weekend than Cody Rhodes. Finally making his debut, his return at WrestleMania under the brightest lights, on the biggest stage, as the American Nightmare, as Seth frickin' Rollins' mystery opponent. It was a fantastic, historic return for Cody Rhodes. And of course, after WrestleMania, everybody wanted a piece of Cody. Cody was making all the media rounds. And it was in this clip with Ariel Helwani, who always gets the best interviews, talking with Cody not only about his exit from AEW, but what it took for him to actually sign on the dotted line with WWE. Was there any special perks, anything in particular that he had, that he needed before he signed that dotted line? Check out this clip.
Around, right? Did you need to hear something? Were there any guarantees that needed to happen for you to say, okay, I'm going to come over here and be treated the right way, the way you want to be treated?
There wasn't any true guarantees. There was a request.
What was that?
I said I never want to ever see Stardust ever again, and I never want to hear it and talk about. I never want to see it. And it was a handshake, and that was all I needed. And the first thing I did in the match last night was a random Stardust reference. And I thought, what are you doing? You're going back on your own strange requests. But other than that, it's complex to get this all together, and maybe one of wrestling's biggest contracts, which I'm so flattered about. My gosh, and happy. I have a child, so yeah. But it was more a matter of I don't not trust people, right? It's not I don't trust in this person's word or this person's words. But at this point in my career, I do trust myself. That was presented to me on a silver platter last night. I mean, nothing changed. Nothing. Kingdom played. Wrestling has more than one royal family, and this is a world where wrestling, the term isn't said that often. So to hear that was a big give from them, and to be me, it went kind of how the dream was.
Adrenaline in my soul, something, Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes jumping ship from AEW as an EVP over to the WWE is a huge fucking deal for the WWE. They got a megastar in Cody Rhodes if they play their cards right. This was the same act that got Cody Rhodes booed in AEW because they don't like that WWE style, right? In hindsight, looking back, Cody Rhodes had a very WWE-esque presentation in AEW. He was a sports entertainer. And this is why the fans turned on him. They didn't like that big wrestling has more than one royal family and the build-up and the preamble to his music, and he's coming up from the ground. All that was cool at first, but then it just kind of became a little over the top. And it almost became heelish. And it almost became a WWE-esque presentation. Now looking at Cody in WWE, he fits like a glove. He feels like he always belonged there. He is the star that they need. And make no mistake, Cody Rhodes going to WWE is star power for WWE. They rolled out the red carpet for this man. They bought him a bus. They let him keep his entire gimmick, his music, all of that. We're spoiled. We don't normally get to see that kind of shit happen. You know, very few guys ever get to keep their same character, essentially, their name, their music. You know, CM Punk gets to keep his music. Jeff Hardy apparently, you know, they were able to obtain the rights to his music. But overall, this is something that we don't get to see very often in professional wrestling. You know, the AEW presentation of Cody Rhodes in WWE. I think they're going to use him great. You know, I think we all predicted that Cody was going to get jobbed out and going to get turned into Stardust again and going to get bumped back down to the mid card. I don't think they will. I think they've built a huge investment in Cody Rhodes. I think him saying that Nick Khan was there as part of the deal, right? He had Vince and Bruce and Nick Khan all went to go see Cody in Georgia to meet with him. To see, you know, to talk about coming to the WWE. And with Nick Khan being there, and Cody had specifically mentioned his name a couple times. So it sounds like Nick was one of the bigger people in the deal, in making this deal happen, right? And this deal included getting him a bus. It included a obscene amount of money, according to Cody Rhodes. So this is the kind of move that Nick Khan is making. We've seen the kind of moves that Nick Khan was making before. This man is a genius, ruthless businessman. He's seeing Cody Rhodes as this AEW top star, a top get for AEW. And I'm going to tell you why he's rolling out the red carpet for Cody. Not just because Cody's going to do huge business for WWE. Look at the man, the way he cuts a promo, the way he dresses, the way his entrance is presented. This man is a superstar. He's a completely different person than he was when he was in WWE the first time. He has left WWE. He went away to reinvent himself, to better himself, and to come back and shove it in WWE's face. And I think that was Cody's plan all along. I don't truly believe that he didn't intend to go back to WWE someday. I think his intention was to go prove his worth to WWE, then come back and reclaim it. You know, I think he was hurt by his first run in WWE. He was hurt by not being a priority by WWE, and he wanted to go shove it in their face. And he did. And he absolutely did. And with Nick Khan being such a big part of this deal, not only just bringing Cody back as the American Nightmare, but the idea here, I think, is to not just for his star power in WWE, not just to freshen up the roster, but this is a key investment for WWE in the future of AEW talent going to WWE. It's no secret, it's been said that they have their eye on certain AEW talent. Wardlow's been mentioned. Sammy Guevara has been mentioned. And of course, MJF's name has been thrown out there. So WWE absolutely has their eye on AEW talent, and they're going to try to poach them if they get the chance to. And they certainly will. I think Jade Cargill is going to be another one. She just oozes fucking superstar, right? WWE could make a mega star out of her. And this is no knock to AEW, because I am a huge AEW fan. I like them more than I like watching WWE. I've said that before. But they are the smaller company. And AEW is not yet on the level that WWE is as far as being able to create mega stars, household names, right? AEW's a great... They're at the top of they're at the top of the scene in professional wrestling, right? They're right up there as the big leagues with WWE, but they're not mainstream household names yet like the WWE has and has the power to do. In WWE, and specifically I think Nick Khan in this situation is they're very aware that the investment that they're making isn't just in Cody Rhodes, but it's in showing other AEW talent that if you come over to WWE, we will make you a megastar. right? We're going to give you the top 5-star treatment. We're going to let you be who you are, which is laughable because MJF would never be MJF in the WWE. You know, he might get to keep his name. I don't know if he owns his music or not, but he's not going to be able to talk like he talks in in AEW, right? So I think that's the overall goal. I mean, Cody's a huge draw to WWE. There's a lot of worth in him just as a star. And if nothing else was involved with this, signing Cody Rhodes and pushing him to the top of your card is a fantastic investment. But they know what they're doing. And with Nick Khan being at the forefront of this deal, how many other contract negotiations have you heard Nick Khan being at the forefront of, right? How many recent signings have you heard of at the WWE where Nick Khan had physically flown to meet with this person? They're investing in Cody Rhodes as a star. They're investing in Cody Rhodes as a way to lure or show AEW talent that the grass can be greener on the other side. And I think it will be for Cody. I don't personally think that he's going to start to get jobbed out or pushed down to the mid card of the roster unless he himself just can't live up to that level. But I think from everything that we've seen so far in the presentation that WWE is giving Cody and the way that Cody's been able to use it and take it and deliver, I think Cody's going to continue to be a huge star in professional wrestling. I think he's going to be a megastar for WWE, and I think that is going to be used as a bright, shiny beacon to AEW stars that are feeling a little froggy and think that they can be a bigger star and make more money if they hop on over to the other side. I highly urge you to go check out the full interview with Ariel Helwani. You can find it on his YouTube channel, and if you're listening to the clips, I have linked it below for you. On his own podcast, Impulsive, get it? It's like impulsive, but with Paul in the middle instead of pulse. On his own podcast, Impulsive, Logan Paul talks about his WrestleMania experience and talks about just how fake or real wrestling is. Check out this clip.
Awesome. It is electric. When there's someone you love in that ring and doing those moves, like, by the way, I didn't practice like any of those moves.
I watch you train, but I didn't see you actually like pull the moves off.
No, because it's you're doing it on that surface is hard. It is not bouncy. It is not a trampoline. There is no give. It is plywood. It's wood. And so everyone, wrestling's fake. Shut the fuck up. That shit hurts. I am sore. The left side of my body kills me right now. Like, those are real slams and they hurt. And when I was practicing, you can't just, in practice even do those moves because you're gonna compromise your body ahead of the match. Yep. So you can do it on a crash pad as many times as you want. But like when I hit those, it's called the Three Amigos, 3 suplexes in a row. I had never practiced a suplex like that. I threw both my legs up. I'm fucking airborne.
Sick.
On the second one, bro, my head snapped back. For sure, I just got a concussion. I'm looking up at the lights of the Dallas Stadium. I'm like, oh, no, whatever, dude. It's WrestleMania. Turn over. And yeah, dude, the adrenaline's crazy. The crowd's going nuts. Something about the energy for a wrestling event and a boxing match is so different.
So different.
Wrestling's more fun, eh?
Remember I said it to you in the locker room before?
Yeah, that fucking mat hurts. There's not a lot of give to it. Especially when you're not used to being a professional wrestler. They talk about the callus that you build up as a professional wrestler to where you start hitting that mat and it doesn't affect you in the same way. But if you're out with an injury and you're off for a few months and then you come back, those first few bumps suck. So for a guy like Logan Paul, who does not do this for a living, does not do this regularly, has never done this as far as we know. He even said in the interview or in his podcast that he didn't practice these moves. He might have did a few things on a crash pad or whatever, but a lot of it is just go out there and do it on the spot. And he's hitting that ring for the first time as a newbie to professional wrestling, as not a professional, though you wouldn't know it the way that he was presenting himself out there. He was a fucking star, right? Logan Paul killed it at WrestleMania. when he says, I don't want to brag, I'm trying to be humble, but I'm good at this. He is good at this. He's very good. He's got it all down. From the character presentation, the look at the ring gear that he had put together for this show. He looked like a fucking star with his goofy ass Pokemon card around his neck. He looked so obnoxious. His headband, he fit right in with the Miz. Both of them are just the most obnoxious heels you can think of, right? So it was a perfect pairing to take on the Mysterios. Of course, Ray, one of the most beloved wrestlers of all time. Logan did great. He did absolutely great. I know he's got a lot of haters out there. I know there's a lot of people that don't want to see him in wrestling or don't think that he belongs in wrestling. I know there's a lot of people that don't like when celebrities get involved with professional wrestling at all. They feel like it makes a mockery of it or that they just have no place. And to an extent, I can agree with that. When I look at a Bad Bunny nailed all the moves. He did great. Also, in the ring, you could tell he really practiced and he tried, but he doesn't look the part necessarily, and thus I don't really believe him as somebody that could kick somebody's ass. But with Logan Paul, we've seen him. He goes out there and has professional boxing fights with real professional. This motherfucker went the distance with Floyd Mayweather. And of course, I do believe that whole thing was a work. I think that Floyd probably could have took him out a few points in that fight if he wanted to. He just wanted to go the full 10 rounds and put on a good little exhibition show. I get that. But Logan Paul still was in there and hung for 10 rounds, and he was able to dish some punishment out too. Floyd gave him props. He's a good fighter. Nice little exhibition for him. So we know that, and Logan's had other fights as well. So we know that Logan has the chops to hang. He's got the body for it, right? He's built. He's tough. Just from MMA circles and stuff, it's been said that both the Paul brothers grew up as farm boys, just like Brock. Hard working, lots of lifting and throwing and hauling and digging and all of that shit. Builds up a fucking rock hard, chiseled, strong body. You could see that when you look at Logan. So he looks the part. He's got the history and the body of work with his boxing and such to show that he at least has a legitimate history in combat sports. So for him to go out at WrestleMania, to look the part, to show, to do as well as he did, to have the full character down too. He didn't just go out and was able to do the moves because he's athletic and look the part because he's built and he's got the muscular body structure and he's got the gear, the obnoxious gear with the headbands and the bright bumblebee jacket and all that. But the facials, the expressions, the heel work, doing the Three Amigos, knowing that it's going to get the crowd to boo him. And just all of that shit, man, he did so good. And from listening to this interview, I get the feeling that Logan has the itch to continue wrestling. I think he wants to be a wrestler. And we'll get to it in another clip, but he even, has a conversation with Becky later on the show, Becky Lynch, about not wanting to be a heel. He wants to be a babyface. So I think Logan Paul has strong intentions of continuing to do this. I think we haven't seen the last of Logan in the ring, and I don't think we should. I think he did great. I don't think he made an ass of himself. He didn't look green. He looks like he fits right in. He belongs there. He's got the credentials to back it up. He belongs in a WWE ring just as much as, say, a CM Punk belonged in a UFC octagon, right? So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what comes next for Logan. And you know what? Like, as unlikable as he comes off in a lot of things, just kind of getting to know him a little bit better, digging into him as of late because of his interactions with the WWE and being a part of WrestleMania. I gotta say that I like Logan as a person, and I get where he's coming from, and I can tell that he has a true love and a passion for professional wrestling, and I would love to see him keep doing more, keep doing his thing, wearing the Bumblebee jacket, annoying the fuck out of the fans. It's where he belongs. Things continue to get worse for former WWE diva Sunny, aka Tammy Sitch, who has been in and out of jail and trouble with law enforcement over the last few years for alcohol and other various incidents. This time, unfortunately, Sunny was involved in a fatal car accident, crashing into the back of a vehicle so hard that it killed the driver, a 70-some-year-old man. Sad shit, sad story. Check out this news clip from Florida.
At 4:30, we are getting a look at new documents from police detailing what led to a deadly crash involving former WWE star Tamara Sitch, also known as Sunny. It happened late last month on U.S. Highway 1 and Granada Boulevard in Ormond Beach. News 6's Lauren Cervantes joins us live now. And Lauren, what are police saying?
Well, police say this is the intersection. It actually happened right about here on the other side of this median in this turn lane where this truck is actually right now. Ormond Beach police say 49-year-old Tamara Sitch, a former WWE wrestler, crashed into the back of a car, killing its 75-year-old driver, Julian Lassiter. And according to the crash report, police suspect she was driving under the influence of alcohol, but say they are still waiting for the toxicology results to come back. The crash happened on March 25th, just before 8:30 at night. And according to a rendering in the report, 2 cars were sitting at the light on North Yonge and West Granada Boulevard. That's when police say Sitch rear-ended a Kia Sorento, and that Kia then hit the back of a GMC Yukon. 2 people who witnessed the crash told police Sitch was driving at a high rate of speed when she ran into Lassiter's vehicle. The report says both Lassiter and Sitch were taken to the hospital for injuries and that Lassiter died. Police say Sitch could be facing criminal charges depending on the results of the toxicology, and that they've requested an expedited time frame for that. For now, in Volusia County, I'm Lauren Cervantes getting results.
So the police do suspect that alcohol use was involved, but to be fair to Sunny, this has not been proven as of the recording of this show. So no official charges have been pressed against her as far as, you know, drunk driving or manslaughter or anything like that. But this doesn't look good. This is not a good look. It was just a month ago, maybe, or close to that, where Sunny was just arrested for drunk driving again. I believe she was ordered to have a breathalyzer installed into her car, one of those things that you got to start. Just sad. You know, none of this is fun to report on. It's news. As wrestling fans, you know, we want to be aware of things like this when it happens. But Sunny, I mean, it's just one thing after another with Sunny out there, getting herself into trouble. I don't know what it is with her. She needs help, right? I'm not a fucking psychologist, but the way that she's continues to get involved in drunk driving incidents and run-ins with the police and just being an overall problem to society, you know, it's just fucking sad. It's sad to see. You know, I always loved Sunny when I was a kid. You know, she was the AOL's most downloaded woman of 1996, and this was an era that had Pamela Anderson and Jenny McCarthy. Sunny was a fucking star, and she was big time in her era. And ever since she left the WWE, it feels like everything's just been a fucking train wreck ever since. I wish her the best. I hope she gets help. I hope she wasn't drunk driving. I hope it was just an accident. Either way, you know, the fact that, like, how hard do you have to crash into the back of a car to kill the driver? Now, granted, the driver was an old man, but how hard, I mean, I get whiplash or something, but, like, how hard do you have to crash into the back of a vehicle to kill the driver and injure another person, crash into another vehicle on top of that? So, just an all-around bad situation. I will keep you posted on this if anything new develops. You know, if Sunny does end up catching charges for drunk driving or manslaughter or anything pertaining to this incident. As of right now, it's just an accident, a tragedy that happened. But with police suspecting alcohol to be involved in Sonny's past, this just doesn't look good. Big time Bex. Becky Lynch was also on the Logan Paul podcast, Impulsive, this week, talking about being a heel in professional wrestling. Check out this clip.
I don't want to be a bad guy.
Oh, you don't want to be a bad guy?
I don't want to be a heel.
Oh, you're so good at it.
I don't know. Do you like being the heel better than a babyface?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Because of that freedom, man. You can do no wrong if you're a heel.
Yeah.
You can do no wrong. They hate you. You're doing your job. They love you. Great. I'm awesome. So it's fun. But then it is that thing. You got to remove yourself from the character because when it's your art and when you feel so connected to it, this is my life, man. I'm putting my life on the line for you. I'm putting my life on the line, and you're telling me I'm no good at the thing I'm putting my life on the line to entertain you? Excuse me? And you get that chip on your shoulder, and that's fun too, But when you go out there and the crowd is just reacting, and you're able to tell the story, you're just telling a story. And when you feel them either loving you, hating you, getting into all of the moves, everything, it's just, there's nothing like it.
Being a heel allows you so much more freedom creatively to just go out there and just make an ass of yourself. Becky Lynch going out there in these huge coats and these obnoxious outfits that she has, and just I'm big time Bex, and just the whole presentation of it. It's so obnoxious. Both her and Seth Rollins, they must sit around and talk about how they can just be the most obnoxious people together. Because both of them are just, they're almost too much to bear. They really are. But Becky, the fans don't want to hate Becky. That's the problem with Becky. Whereas with a Logan Paul, the fans hate Logan Paul. And they will always hate Logan Paul. Wrestling fans aren't going to ever have a respect for him. The motherfucker walks out with a Pokemon card around his neck. That's heel shit. With Becky Lynch, people love Becky. They want to like Becky. The whole thing with her and Bianca Belair was a shit pairing to begin with. I mean, a great match that they had at WrestleMania. And just as far as pairing the two up for a match, the match was great. But the fans want to like both. So when you're trying to pit one as a heel against the other, the fans don't know what to do with that. The fans don't want to go they don't want to go completely hard on Bianca Belair because they're still fans of Becky Lynch. They don't want to hate on Becky Lynch because they're, so it's hard to get the fans to hate one over the other when they like both. So it was a bad pairing for that. I think they should go ahead and separate them from each other now. And I think Becky should come back around to being a babyface because the fans don't want to boo her, no matter how obnoxious she tries to be. I highly recommend you go out and check out the full podcast, listen to the full interview. Lots of great shit in there. Becky just seems so likable, too. She seems like a fun girl to hang out with. She's so chill, funny, relaxed. It's just great shit. Mr. Tony Khan was on the Busted Open podcast this week, shilling Rampage and Dynamite like he always does. But in this particular clip, Tony Khan had a bomb to drop. Another news bomb, as Tony Khan always does. But this one is very significant and could be a game changer. Check out this clip.
Well, not only for AEW, but also internationally for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And, of course, today just finalized and just made this big announcement that AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage will be shown in Japan on New Japan World. Wow. It's another great step in the partnership, and we were just getting that finalized and just got that squared away before I joined you guys today. So it's a huge milestone and another big step for both companies, I think.
This is a massive deal for AEW. AEW is not yet in Japan. They're not on Japanese TV. Of course, wrestling fans all over the world are marks, whether it's the United States or Japan. So certainly Japanese wrestling fans are familiar with AEW and are probably able to seek it out in one way, shape, or another. But this is going to open up AEW's content to a whole new fan base. This is going to make them more widely available in Japan. This is going to expose them to, in not just wrestling fans in Japan being able to be aware of AEW, follow along on YouTube or something, but this is going to allow them to follow along with the show. They're going to be able to watch each and every week as Dynamite and Rampage air on the New Japan World streaming service. This is just a huge deal. It's another way to spread AEW. It's a way for them to get their content out to other countries. They don't have the kind of TV deals and connections and things of that nature that WWE has been able to establish all over the world, right? WWE is on TV in one way, shape, or another in all of these other major countries. But AEW is still trying to find their path. They're still a growing company, and they don't have content in Japan yet. But this deal with the New Japan World, the streaming service, this is a huge move for AEW. This is a big step for them in growing their audience and expanding around the world. And just another sign that they're out there making big moves to be the big number two. As if there was no doubt about them being number two to begin with. These are the kind of things that are going to continue to grow AEW and expand out into the world. And I love it. I love seeing this kind of shit. This is a smart move for them. It's a smart move for New Japan as well. Having that kind of content on their platform just makes their platform that much bigger, right? If you're not already subscribed to New Japan World, I would say being able to watch Rampage and Dynamite's a pretty fucking big thing, especially for people like me. I don't have cable. I'm a cord cutter, right? So I can't just turn on TBS and watch fucking Dynamite or TNT and watch Rampage. Now, with New Japan World, everything in one place. This is a huge deal for New Japan, huge deal for AEW, a great way to expand around the world and keep growing your fan base. And rounding out the trifecta of Logan Paul clips from the Impulsive podcast this week following WrestleMania, the three amigos of Logan Paul clips, if you will. Sasha Banks was also on the Impulsive podcast, talking about her future in professional wrestling, aspirations for Hollywood. Check out this clip.
You do stuff outside of the WWE as well, and I'm assuming you have some sort of 5-year plan to expand your arsenal, right? You already did. You were in The Mandalorian last season.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Some real Hollywood stuff.
Yeah.
Is more of this happening? Are you going to break out and become that superstar of the world?
Yes, I am.
Let's go.
Yes, I am. It's kind of really hard to do with the WWE schedule. I mean, when I shot The Mandalorian last year, it went from doing TV, doing live events, and then just getting on a plane, going to LA, shooting all week, getting on a red eye, going back to TV, putting my hair in, taking my hair out for 3 months. For 3 months. And it was just, wow. So if I'm going to take over the world, it's like, I got to choose one or the other. And that's the hard part to think of because wrestling has been my life, my whole life. So when that time and that opportunity comes, it's like I really have to sit back and think, like, what's next, Yeah. Is it full-time Hollywood? Is it full-time, doing something else that I have passions about? Or is it still being here and making more history and changing the game and leaving a legacy that's forever cemented? But I feel like I've already done that. I feel like I'm already a Hall of Famer. I already feel like I've done it all. So it's like, what is that last legacy piece that I can leave here? I'm still searching for it.
It's boss time. Copyright Michael Cole. Yeah, Sasha Banks has a huge future in front of her in Hollywood. And she's, her saying that she's already a WWE Hall of Famer could rub a lot of people the wrong way, but when you look at her body of work, she really is. If she were to quit WWE right now, move on to become a Hollywood actress, she's gonna get inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame for her body of work that she's contributed. As a female performer, Like, you're not going to build the same body of work that, say, like a Triple H or The Undertaker had. You know, the shelf life of a female performer is shorter, just because a whole lot of the female aspect is based on looks, right? You're not going to be able to have a woman out there wrestling in her 50s and 60s in the way that, you know, say like a Ric Flair could, or a Chris Jericho is now, right? So their shelf life is limited. And when you look at they could look at Mae Young, but I mean, we're talking WWE here. So this is Vince McMahon. He's not going to put a fucking 60-year-old Sasha Banks out in the ring. So her time as an in-ring performer is going to be limited as it is. And when you look back at her entire body of work from NXT up through now, there is absolutely no doubt in anybody's mind that she's a fucking full-fledged Hall of Fame WWE icon for everything that she's accomplished, starting in NXT, that match that she had with Bayley, right? That takeover New York, or the takeover Brooklyn that they had, one of the most iconic women's matches of all time. I will never forget that match as long as I live. The way that Sasha and Bayley always work together, so that's part of it. But the things that they did to each other in that match, the realism, the intensity, the way Sasha was just stomping on Bayley's hands and smashing up her fingers and stuff. And I think Bayley even said legitimately re-broke her hand at one point. Like it was an iconic match. And then she was involved in the first Hell in the Cell match. And she's been involved in WrestleMania main events as a woman, as a female professional wrestler. She's done it all. What's left for her to accomplish? She's been a women's champion multiple times. There's not a lot left for her to do except to go on and take that next chapter in life and go out and tackle Hollywood. She's already been in The Mandalorian, right? That's a fucking Star Wars property. That's on Disney Plus. Okay, that's a Disney property. You can't get much bigger than that. That's fucking star power. You put that on your resume, like that you were in The Mandalorian and you're a fucking WWE superstar and you're fucking Snoop Dogg's cousin, she's going to get all the Hollywood attention that she's going to need. And when the day comes that she decides that she does want to leave professional wrestling, or at least leave wrestling full time and maybe do appearances here and there, do some matches part time, but go off and do Hollywood. We've seen it happen. You know, this is a tried and true wrestling formula. We've seen The Rock do it. We've seen Hulk Hogan do it before him. We're seeing John Cena do it now. Not everybody gets the chance to do it at that elite level. Even a CM Punk, who's dabbled in movies, hasn't ever reached the level that, you know, even a John Cena has at this point. But Sasha Banks has that ability. She has the look. She has the star power. She has the drive. She has the talent to go out and be a fucking Hollywood superstar. And I truly, truly believe it. And I think if any of the female roster, you know, we could speculate on who the next big Hollywood star to come out of wrestling could be. But if we're going to look at the female side of things, it's not going to be a Becky Lynch. It's not going to be a Charlotte Flair. It's not going to be Ronda Rousey. It's going to be Sasha Banks, the boss. Look at her. She's got star written all over her. And if she can continue to smoothly transition herself out of professional wrestling and are able to land herself some bigger Hollywood roles like she did with The Mandalorian, her star is on the rise and there's nowhere for her to go but up. And I really do. I really, honest to God, see her as a future WWE Hall of Famer and a huge player in Hollywood in major, major blockbuster movies. It's coming. She's going to be the first female to cross that border to break those boundaries that John Cena did and The Rock before him and Hulk Hogan before him. Highly recommend you go out and check out the full podcast, Impulsive, with Logan Paul recapping WrestleMania weekend. So I was super excited this week when I busted open my podcast app and I saw Abdullah The Butcher on Talk Is Jericho. Of course, he was on the show this week talking with Chris because he's trying to raise some money for his GoFundMe. He is involved in a legal battle currently where he is being sued by an indie wrestler who claims that Abdullah cut him on purpose and by doing so had given him Hep C. Of course, Abdullah completely denies all of this. I don't know either way. I don't really have a dog in that fight, but it was fun to hear him take a walk down memory lane with Chris Jericho and talk about some of the bigger highlights in his wrestling career, one of which was working with Hulk Hogan, which Abdullah had the opportunity to do several times. And there was a point in time where Abdullah was contacted about possibly coming into the WWF to work with Hulk Hogan on top, back when Hogan was slaying monsters. Check out this clip.
Did you ever have any talks with Vince McMahon to come into the WWF?
Well, let me tell you something. I met his father.
Yeah.
And I liked it. I was in Japan, and he was in Japan, and he said, Abdullah, I hear a lot about you. Hulk Hogan wants to wrestle you in New York. And you'd only have to wrestle him. And Hogan told me the same thing. Abdullah, you just be working with me. Well, anyways, when it came time up, they said, they asked some of the guys, what do you think about Abdullah coming into the thing? Oh, he's going to use the fork. He's going to do this, like that. And that was it. I never seen it. But he wanted to bring me in.
Yeah, I was really surprised to see that Abdullah actually had worked with Hulk Hogan in the past. You know, when I was a kid, I always did look at Abdullah as a fucking... He scared the shit out of me. I think I first discovered him in WCW when he was working with Cactus Jack, and he did the electric chair gimmick and all that. And Abdullah, and Chris talked about this on the podcast, that Abdullah legitimately scared fans and made them think that he was some wild serial killer or something. I truly believed this as a kid. There are few wrestlers that terrify the fuck out of me still to this day. And Abdullah the Butcher is one of them, even though I know that he's a sweetheart of a man. I've seen plenty of interviews with him and all of that. But when you look at his in-ring performance, and isn't it always the case? Because, you know, Stan Hansen was a sweetheart of a man too. But that motherfucker will kill you in the ring. So, and I was surprised because Abdullah's always been so uptight about opening up about the business, right? He comes from the old school generation where you kayfabe everything. And I was very surprised to see that he had worked with Hulk Hogan in the past. I always thought he was just a fucking murderer. I'm shocked that Hogan would even agree to a match with him. And you see, and there's pictures out there of Hogan just bleeding all over the place from Abdullah. If Hogan would have been able to bring Abdullah the Butcher into the WWF at the time in the 80s when he was on his fucking monster run as the champion and he was just beating all of these monster heels, he would have had a great little run there. He would have been able to come in, make a huge chunk of money, and he eventually would have put Hulk Hogan over, of course, and then Hulk would have moved on to the next. He could have did that without doing the fork. He doesn't need the fork to be a fucking effective monster heel. He just looks like a savage. He looks like a monster. He looks like a tall task for our American hero Hulk Hogan to defeat. And I think they would have done killer money. They really would have. I don't know that Butcher would have been somebody that would have been good to keep around for the long term, but just somebody to rotate in, work a program with Hulk, and then rotate back out. You know, Bruiser Brody was another guy that Hulk was wanting to bring in and work with in the WWF that could have made huge money in the 80s. I'm glad that Abdullah the Butcher has been able to get the recognition in life that he deserves for the career that he's had, because he really is one of the greatest professional wrestling stars of all time. When you make your list of like top 100 guys in the business, and we're not talking workability or anything like that, but Abdullah drew huge money everywhere that he went. He was a star that everybody wanted to bring into their territory because fans feared the fuck out of Abdullah. He was believable. And if you took your top baby face and you put him in the ring with Abdullah and you put him in jeopardy and you make people think that that man is in danger of losing his life, Abdullah's got the fork out, he's carving away at your favorite baby face's head. That shit is brutal and it sells tickets. Abdullah was one of the biggest stars in professional wrestling history. He spent no time in the WWE. I'm glad he was able to at least be put in the WWE Hall of Fame, get that recognition. It's sad to hear now that he's broke, that he's having a hard time paying his bills. It's sad to hear that he's being sued. I don't know much about the case. I don't know either way. So I don't really want to say I feel bad for him because I just don't know. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say that he, you know, just because he says that he didn't do it on purpose or cut the guy or give him Hep C doesn't mean that he didn't. The courts will decide all that. But it is sad to see that, you know, of everything that he's been able to accomplish in his career and all the success that he's had, that he's going to end up winding down the end of his days kind of broke and in courts and that sort of thing. It's just, I hate to see that shit. I like the success stories. I like to see the guys that were huge stars in the business and were able to do something with that going forward. You know, I think he had a wrestling school at one point. I know he had a restaurant. So, I mean, he was able to parlay his wrestling career into other businesses. It's just sad to hear that he's in the situation that he's in now. But I'll certainly continue to follow as well. You know, if anything comes of this court case, one way or another, I think it'd be interesting to kind of follow up on and just kind of see how this whole thing plays out. Could go either way. Best of luck to Abby, and you know, I hope he's able to kind of end his life with some dignity and some money in his pocket, and I hope everything turns out okay for him one way or another. Seth freaking Rollins just can't seem to help himself from talking trash every time somebody puts a microphone out in front of him. This time directed at Meltzer in his famous 5-star rating system that he has. Check out this clip.
I wonder what the star rating will be. I haven't heard that yet.
Has anyone hit 8 yet? Are we 9? Is he into the 10s yet? That moron. Nobody cares.
I don't get why everybody's so hateful towards Meltzer. First of all, let's not overlook the fact that Rollins comes from the generation where he was probably a subscriber to Meltzer's fucking newsletter, and he was probably a mark for his first 5-star rating. I don't know that for sure. I'm speculating, but I would be if I was a wrestler, wouldn't you? We all come from that generation where we were raised up on Meltzer's reviews at this point, right? I get the old school guys that were trying to kayfabe the business all the time, not liking Meltzer. That makes sense to me because Meltzer was exposing the business. But at this point now where we're coming up in an era of showmanship, where we're coming up in an era of the Meltzer driver, for fuck's sake, everybody knows it's a work, everybody knows it's a show, and there's no more over 5-star rating than Meltzer's 5 stars, his star rating system in general. And I don't get why, even just beyond the ratings, just the hate for Meltzer as a journalist in general. The only thing I can attribute it to at this point, like I said, I understand the older generation not liking Meltzer because he's exposing the business. But at this point, it's just sour grapes, is it not? It's just people salty because Meltzer said something bad about you in one of his reviews, didn't like one of your matches, doesn't like the way that you're doing a fucking character or the way you cut a promo or something. And now you hold a bitter grudge against him. Now you want to talk shit and fuck his system and fuck his reviews and fuck what he thinks and all that. This guy was around writing about professional wrestling while you were still in your fucking underwear, okay? Where you're still running around in diapers, fucking trying to jump off the couch and shit. Seth freaking Rollins grew up in an era where Meltzer was the guy reporting on everything. So for him to come out and just be like, yeah, fuck Meltzer and blah, 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 it can only be construed as sour grapes, in my opinion, at this point. Somewhere along the way, Meltzer rubbed him the wrong way. All of it's subjective to begin with. You know, just because Meltzer doesn't think that something's a 5-star match or he thinks something's a 7-star match. just because he does that kind of shit, it's just one man's opinion. But he's been around long enough. He's been doing it long enough to where at this point, guys can't get mad at him for doing his job. Guys can get mad at him and take it personally. If he hurts their feelings about something, because he didn't give them a 5-star match when they thought they should have. But there's no reason to hate the guy because he's doing his job, right? And what's extra funny is because Rollins said this, because Rollins has a fucking hair up his ass about it, Meltzer, to retaliate in his own right, left out a star rating altogether for his match with Cody Rhodes, which in my opinion was probably a 4-star match. I don't know. I just thought that this was just another fun example of Rollins out there talking shit. I don't know if this is part of his shtick or if he really feels this way, if he really gets defensive about things like this all the time. People in AEW talking trash, or if this is just part of the shtick. He's just obnoxious Seth freaking Rollins. And when he's out there doing interviews, he's gonna be abrasive and rub people the wrong way. Maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe he really does feel a certain kind of way, but he plays it up or over emphasizes things just for the sake of the show. Who knows? But it's always fun to cover Rollins' little hot takes on things. So plus Meltzer sliding in his little shot back by not giving his WrestleMania match a star rating. I love this kind of shit. Welcome to the internet world of professional wrestling. Well, we made it through another week. Thank you guys for checking out the show. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Thank you for getting a video of mine on YouTube up over 20,000 views. This is fucking huge for me. I'm just a small-time podcaster yelling at a microphone in my basement. I had no idea that there would be 20,000 fucking people that would hear my voice. I'm super humbled. I appreciate all of you. If you're listening now and you came to me from that clip, it was a clip from last week's show with Ric Flair and Mark Madden. Had no idea it would blow up the way it did. But, I got to tell you, 20,000 views might not sound like a lot compared to other YouTubers that you might watch or listen to. But 20,000 views is fucking huge for me. Huge win for me and just really humbled me. So I appreciate it. I'm just going to keep doing what I do. I'm just going to keep doing the podcast the way I've always done it. Just bringing you clips from all the best highlights of the pro wrestling interviews and podcasts of the week. And hopefully there's more. Hopefully this is a sign that things are going to start to take off. Hopefully you guys are along for the ride with me. But even if not, it was just a one-off anomaly. I can't thank everybody enough for bringing that into my life. And it just gives me more motivation to keep doing what I'm doing and bring you the best content that I can. Keep improving, keep bettering myself each and every week. Got a few plugs to throw out there before I sign off here. Want everybody to please follow me on social media. It's going to be at Seth Grimes Media across the board. So whatever you're on, if it's TikTok, if it's Twitter, if it's Facebook, wherever that you are, that you want to see me, follow me, listen to more, check out clips, all of that good shit. Just see me post random bullshit. Yesterday I posted about a peanut butter sandwich. So if you like things like that, follow me at Seth Grimes Media. I would very much appreciate it. You can also check out the full podcast, both on the podcast feed or on YouTube and Rumble. Clips are also going to be on YouTube and Rumble. We have pro wrestling inspired NFTs. You can go to cryptomanianft.com to check out the pro wrestling inspired NFT project we got going on over there. We do have another project that is different from the one that's out right now, but also still pro wrestling inspired, dropping very soon. So stay posted all that if you're into NFTs and shit. If you're not, then fuck it, right? Who cares? That's all I got for you today. Again, thank you for hanging around. Peace, love, and pizza. I'm your host, Seth Grimes, and this has been the Pro Wrestling Podcast. That's gonna hurt my voice now. I'm gonna have to go drink some like honey tea. God damn it.